Hey y'all, it's David Ducker coming back at you, and today we're going to be talking about GM burnout. What is it? What causes it? How to prevent it? I've previously done this video with guest star James Tudalik Mikatuk Duffy, but that video is a little long, so I'm kind of going back and condensing earlier videos. That one's about 25 minutes, so we'll try to get this one more like 5 minutes. Hopefully we can hit the same points without wasting so much of your vital time. So what is GM burnout? GM burnout is when your GM is tired, he's exhausted, he doesn't want to run, when his quality of play is down, when his energy level is down. So that's basically what it is. Your GM is tired, he's exhausted, he's overworked, overburdened, probably underappreciated. So that's what it is. Okay? Now, why does it happen? Why does someone feel overworked? It's usually because they're overworked. It's usually because they're taking too much of the burden onto themselves, or you are pushing too much of the burden onto your GM, and it's just causing them to break down. They can't handle the stress, the strain, the workload, the lack of appreciation, whatever it is. So that's why it happens, and how to prevent that from happening is to develop a style, and my whole style is built around this, which does not drain your energy. Figure out how to get the most bang for your buck, the most reward with the least investment up front. So without sacrificing quality, figure out how to drop the amount of energy expenditure down. Game more efficiently, GM more efficiently. So that's basically how to fix it. And I'll go through a couple of basic techniques for how to do that in practice, not just in theory. It's easy to say, do less work, keep quality up, but how can you actually do that? Number one thing to prevent GM burnout is enlist your players. I did a video called "Help Your GM," and players need to help their GM so he doesn't get burned out, so he can still have a social life, so he can have his energy level high, so he can spend time with his girlfriend and still run the game. So get your players to make backstories. In their backstories, get them to build the world or parts of the world, people, places, things, for you, the GM. In their backstory, make sure they've included storylines and plot hooks as well. Now, instead of one writer, you have 7 writers because we're all working together. The world is either 7 times as big, or if the GM slacks off completely, the world's still like 6 times as big. And he doesn't have to do as much of it. Same thing for storylines. Now we have 7 times the amount of storylines. Now the GM doesn't have to write as many storylines by himself. You can give him a seed and he can grow it, which is a lot less energy than creating your own seed and then growing it. Like growing the seed is the hard part. So that's the first thing. The first way for players to help is in their backstory. The second way is in the storytelling, in game, in session. The GM should not be the one driving the pacing of the game. The players should be doing that. The players should be saying, I go over here, I talk to this guy, I do this thing, I attack that guy. The players are driving the story forward, so the GM does not have to. And that will save his energy at the table while he's sitting down. So he doesn't have to say, a goblin jumps out from under a rock, a skeleton claws his way out of the sewer, a hippogriff flies out of the middle of the blue sky. So he doesn't have to push things on you constantly to keep the pace up. Because you're keeping the pace up, and he can sit back and relax. So that's another way the players can help the GM, is by driving the pace of the story up. All right, and as a player, I mean, that's that's pretty much all you can do. Is you help him as much as you can with the world, and in session you help him as much as you can with the story and the storytelling and the quality. So as a player, that's all you can do. So if you've done that, it's not your fault if he's still burned out. That's his fault. And now I'll give some more tips for the GM though. So the GM, now you've got your players helping you. They're helping you to write, and they're helping you to referee, to story tell. What else can you do? Number one thing is to have your campaign tripod. Now, I've done that video, but basically what that means is your players all fit together as a team, so they can drive the plot forward without splitting into a million pieces. So the number one thing is make sure they're together and they're never going to break apart. They're a tight team. You can't break them up. So they're all going to be going in the same direction at the same time all the time for the whole game. Also, you want to make sure that whatever story you've written, they're interested in going in that direction. The story of the world, the big picture story, the open-ended story, not closed-ended. Don't plan the ending. And I did a video on open-ended storytelling. If you don't understand the concept, not every story needs an ending. Most stories that are most good role-playing stories are just a question, and then we explore that question. And often for me, it's who's going to win this fight? And we have two sides, and you can pick either side. You can help them or hinder them as you want, but they are going to fight each other. And it's going to be really important to the world. If you live in the world, you probably care about this. So that's going to help you be together. It's going to give you an overall goal. And I don't know the ending. I don't know who's going to win. I don't know whose side you're going to be on. But I know the issues of the fight, why they're fighting, how they're probably going to fight. And we can explore that. Who's right? Who's wrong? Who's going to win? Is it the guy who's right? Probably not. So that's one thing on your that's almost the whole campaign tripod, really. Because your tripod is your team, them together, is your setting, so that the team is from that world. You don't have stormtroopers running around in Middle Earth. And then it's your open-ended story, your story. And that your story has to fit your setting, and it makes sense with that setting. And your team has to be willing to explore the story, and it makes sense with that story. And as we said, we've already got this connection, the setting and the team. That these people are from this place, and this story is happening in this place, and these people want to explore this story. That's the tripod right there. And I got a whole video on that. So make sure you have your campaign tripod. So now you've got your players who are helping you. And you as a GM have a story they're all interested in. You know they're not going to split apart. And you've got a setting where every aspect of the setting is impacted by this story somehow. It's a big, important story to your world. There's a heresy in the church. There's corruption in the government. The markets are collapsing. There's a nuclear bomb in the hands of terrorists. There's a civil war looming, an alien invasion, a zombie apocalypse. Whatever your story is, it's important. And your players should have power to affect this story. That's that connection. I can change this story. I can affect this story. A bunch of peasants cannot probably impact a war. So if it's a war story, you want to be officers, people who can affect it. Maybe you want to be elite super soldiers, people who can affect it though, because that's what the linkage is. So now you've got your setting, and make your setting beforehand. If you're making your setting on the fly week by week, you're going to get burned out. So let's call this our third thing. So our first thing, get the players on board. Second thing, have your campaign tripod. So let's say the third thing is prep before you ever start playing. You should have the setting made, the story, the team. For the GM, most of that work is going to be the setting and the story. So, you know who is the government, the military, how's the economy work, what's the local religion like, what's the food, the fashion, the art. Do they have tapestries, paintings, bas-reliefs, statues, the architecture of the buildings, how are they designed, the ecology, what's the local terrain like, is it a tundra, a desert, what are the animals that live there, how does and these so the setting all fits together. If it's a tundra and you have a flat roof, your roof will collapse. So that doesn't make sense to have flat roofed architecture in a tundra type setting. So you need to go through and make everything so it all makes sense. You have your setting, your world's cohesive, and then you populate it with your political web, your power players, your factions. And I did a video also on political web, how to make it. But basically, you go through each faction that's really important, make at least 2 NPCs for each one. Make them in a lot of depth, and make sure they all have plot hooks for the player characters, and try to make sure they all care about the main story. So the priest, should definitely care about heresy within the religion. If that's your main story, he might be a really major NPC. If it's a zombie apocalypse, you should still have a priest and make sure he has his opinion on the zombies, what's causing them. This is an issue big enough for everyone to care about. That's why it's your story. That's why you picked this moment in the world's history to explore and investigate. So now we've got our players on board, we've got our campaign tripod, and we've prepped the campaign tripod. So what else do we do now? The only thing to do now is run the game and don't get burned out. So for me, I've done all my prep. I prep like 50 or 100 NPCs, which means I've got at least 20 factions, if not more. And so I've got all the people in the world. I've got all the factions in the world. The world is made. I don't have to do any of that. I throw in the players, right? So that's my writing. I've written the world, I've written the characters. So as a writer, I can sit back. And now I throw in the players. They're going to stick together because they're in a team. They're going to go after that main story aggressively because that's what the team is designed to do partially. To stick together, explore the story, and fit with the setting. The campaign tripod. So they're going to go aggressively after that story. But all I have to do is sit back and say, okay, you talk to the priest. I already know his opinions. I know what he's going to talk to you about. I can get into character and role playing. And because I've got my political web, he can say it's the king's fault. Or he can say, I'm so glad my lieutenant supports me. Or he can say, it's the wizard can save us. He has, as an NPC, he's so detailed, and he knows what's going on so well. He can speak intelligently, and I can roleplay as him. Right? So you need to build your NPCs to a large amount of depth. Maybe he's got quests. You can say you need to retrieve the orb of Anubis, or you need to go fight the king. He's holed up in a castle in the mountains because he's the cause of this. It might have been an accident. I don't know. I know he's the cause. I don't know how he did it, but he's hiding in the mountains. You need to storm the castle and kidnap the king back, and then maybe also get the orb of Anubis to stop the zombie apocalypse. And the wizard is your best hope. So go talk to the archmage of the city. Right? So you got this priest, and of course he's got his lieutenant, who may or may not be trustworthy, who may or may not want to talk to you alone later. So you always have at least 2 NPCs per faction, so you can get that politicking internally, as well as the external politicking. And if they hadn't gone to the priest, maybe they try to go to the king. And the queen is there, and she goes, I don't know what happened to my husband. He's holed up in a castle. I think he's afraid of zombies. And the priest, the high priest, is talking dirty about him. But I don't believe that my husband would ever be involved in this kind of situation. So, as the queen, I would perhaps get you to deliver a message to my husband, or perhaps go and get his friend, the Duke from the north, the Duke of the North, and because that's the only man who my husband will really trust to come out of the castle and talk to. And so she's got quests for you. She's got an opinion. She's educated in the world as well. And that's all done. It's all prep. So all I have to do is referee. Wherever they go, I'm already prepped. Wherever they go, they always stick together. Wherever they go, they're interested in the main story because I've done all my steps. So after session is over, I just have to go down my list of NPCs and say, how did today's session affect them? And we do the ripple effect, right? Oh, they freed the king. I'll update everyone. The priest is happy, the queen is happy, but the priest wants to put the king on trial, so he's going to send people out to do that. And the queen, really misses him and wants to get him alone in the boudoir, so she's going to try to do her best to do that. And it's just a ripple effect. If your players come back with the Orb of Anubis, maybe the Archmage is going to say, yeah, I got to get me that orb because I got to save the city. And you might never have talked to him before, but he's on my list of NPCs, and if he can find out about it, he'll react to it. So I'm just refereeing, reacting. I'm not writing anything new. I'm just reacting to what they're doing in the sandbox. And eventually, once they really know what's going on, so that's your first act, you can hit your inciting incident, do your big second act where we start to get the clash or the setup for the clash, and then third act is either that's the clash or it's a second clash or complication. And I did a video on 3-act structure in RPGs that can educate you on that as well. Yeah, so this video has almost been like my whole style in a nutshell, which I tried to do in another video, but that's because my whole style is built around not getting burned out. Do the work up front, enlist your players, have a plan, and you're not going to get burned out, because between sessions, I don't have to do anything. I can GM for if I could stay awake for 24 hours, 48 hours, until the story is over, I can GM. Because I don't have to do anything between sessions other than the ripple effect. And you can even do that in session if you want. If I'm GMing for 8 hours, after they get the Orb of Anubis, I could say, let's take a 15-minute break. I'm just going to do my ripple effect, and we'll come right back. Use the washroom, make a phone call, eat a sandwich, whatever. I do my ripple effect, they come back, I keep GMing. And if I need to take another 5-minute break, 15-minute break, whatever it is, that's fine. But I can keep GMing forever until the story is over. When the story is over, give them the big battle, end it on a high note, wrap up all your storylines, and say the end, and walk away, and then do it again. Because you can't run forever without doing additional prep in the middle somewhere, and usually that's the worst thing for burnout. Is there anything I haven't covered on burnout? The only thing that springs to mind is your rule set. Use a rule set that won't burn you out. If I use Pathfinder, I'm way more likely to get burned out because it's very complex. There's a lot I have to keep track of. I need to know all these rules. I need to build templates and build characters. I need to take spells into consideration when I'm doing my political intrigue. So Pathfinder is going to cause a tremendous burden to come down on your GM, or any rules heavy system. But if you use something rules light, easy to work with, where you can make a character on the fly, you don't have to worry about that. Use D6 system, use GURPS, World of Darkness, Savage Worlds, BRP, Fate. Um, Use something where you can just on the fly make characters up. And for anyone who thinks that including GURPS in there was an error, then I will disagree with you, and I got to do future videos on GURPS, because GURPS is we've been using it now for about 3 months, and it's very, very, very easy to work with, and it's simple. I love GURPS, and the way we run GURPS, it's rules light. So I think that's it for GM Burnout. I think we've got everything from the rule set to the players to the planning to the storytelling. That's how you avoid it. As I've said, my whole style, prepare to improvise, that's what I call my style, is built around not burning out, running forever, running until the story is over, prepping a new story, and then running that till it's over. And it's very easy to prep like a 5-year story that you can spend, 1,000 hours playing in. I only prepped for 1 year for 200 hours because I like to switch it up often, try different genres and rule sets, characters, and so forth. But that's it. So the intent of this video was to be shorter than my other one, and the length is approaching the same. But I think we've got like 5 times the content in that time period. So success or failure, who knows? But let me know what you think about GM Burnout. If my advice makes sense, if my advice does not make sense to you, leave that in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. Until I see you again, good day and good gaming.